All right, good evening, everybody. It is September 10th, or 12 p.m. Bargaining between Lake County Schools and LCEA. And how's everybody? I hope everybody had a good day today. Yeah. And I know Elizabeth is like we were here all day.
Yes.
So we just passed the agenda.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's count around. Coming along. So thank you. And we previously had discussed, and Elizabeth, when we discussed that, I was gonna bring back this discussion on the MOUs. Do you want me to start that, or do you wanna start first with Article 10 and then we'll close out with the MOUs?
That's up to you. If y'all wanna mention the MOU pieces that we had
Okay.
looked at before, and then we can talk about what our changes were, if that
Perfect.
helps you.
That's fine, perfect. All right, so we have provided you copies of the MOUs already. For the city of Eustis had donated $30,000 for the 2 elementary schools in Eustis to provide tutoring services. So we wrote an MOU basically for the instructional employees at both sites, and that will compensate them, paying them basically at their hourly rate. And it's not, we're not obligating any teacher, obviously, it's voluntary. They'll, you know, the principal will put that out for teachers once they have that set and schedule and select the students and all that to provide after school tutoring. So we're very blessed and glad that City of Eustis, I'm thankful for it. So, and our superintendent and Mr. Carnegie asked me to write an MOU, so I wrote an MOU and provided you a copy with it. The other one was an evening and night programs at Lake County High Schools. We've done that in the past. You provided some changes, I believe.
Yeah, and there was a slight correction on the Eustis one as well.
Okay,
We just added a sentence that said all instructional staff will be notified and have the opportunity to apply for the available positions.
okay,
And then the second bullet, we just made it say instructional employees are selected as opposed to what it said before, which is an instructional employee is selected. So you're making it clear that it's more than one employee.
correct. And did you send me a copy of that one too?
Yes.
Okay.
All three.
All three. And evening night programs, I see the changes because I did open that particular file.
You want me to mention those or?
Yeah,
mention them?
please.
Okay.
Okay.
So, what we looked at here, which is ensuring equity among all instructional staff, is the way it was worded previously. It was giving certain opportunities to certain groups of instructional employees and not others. So we were clarifying that all instructional staff will be notified and have the opportunity to apply for the available positions.
Okay.
And that, it's not specific that only certain groups can work one evening a night, but it's all instructional staff will work as necessary, based off what the principal determines. And that if multiple instructional candidates are qualified and interested, they'll be given the opportunity so that it's spread out among more instructional staff. Because we know of some schools, there are some cases where one instructional employee is working every single night. And so we want to make sure that there's more opportunity if there are interested candidates for other employees as opposed to just one instructional employee working every night.
Okay.
And the other reason for this is that, and being at a high school, and having worked in high school, you know, there's times when we want to put some emphasis, like when we have a lot of night school employees that have not met their graduation requirements for testing. And this would give principals some flexibility if they wanted to have a reading teacher in there multiple nights right before the testing to get the students more prepared. So that was one of the thoughts of making those changes.
Okay. So now. Julie, do you have some feedback on that, on teacher providing instruction work one evening a week?
That work more than one night.
More than one night?
I don't know whether some schools have been doing that, not that I know
Not
of,
that
but
you-
maybe there was some other high schools that only hired the same people to work Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night or something, I don't know.
Okay.
But usually we rotate them through.
There was one other thing that came up too that we mentioned with you and Mr. Feltner, that we know that some of our culinary instructors were providing meals to some of the students. Some of them are being compensated for that time, some weren't. So I just wanna also bring that into discussion before we sign the MOU, that we make sure that any instructional employees that are providing meals outside of contract hours, that there's some compensation for that additional work.
For the culinary teacher that.
Yes.
Providing, that's preparing the meals.
Right.
I guess, I remember that conversation, so I will have to circle that
Okay.
back with Rob and to discuss that, okay? I don't have any other questions on this.
Okay. And then the Lincoln Park one,
I did not see that one on the list of files. You only,
I
you
did
only,
send that as well. It was a PDF.
I see that. Yeah, I didn't get that one. You have it? Okay,
Got it.
got it, go ahead, go ahead.
So the Lincoln Park one, Bobby was kind enough to add the same terminology that y'all had been adding in the first paragraph of all of your MOUs, and she saw that that one wasn't added. So she added that back for you.
Got to edit.
So,
That's.
We got you.
that's-
yeah.
That's on me.
And then, we also clarified, according to our rep at Lincoln Park, the office hours is 7 AM to 12 PM, not 11 PM.
Okay,
So the original setup, or I'm sorry, 11 AM. So we corrected that based on the feedback we got from our rep, that it was 12 PM, not 11 AM. And then we were clarifying the language here because it seemed like it was a little unclear. So Bobby, do you want to speak to the 30-minute piece?
Yeah, so basically, the way it was written before, it was kind of hard to understand what they were supposed to do with that time, because, so we just moved some things around. So now it says instructional employees will schedule and structure office hours between 7 AM and 12 PM for the purpose of student support. So, because before it sounded like it could have been, you know, what the use of it was kind of vague, and so we wanted to make that clear.
it's a brand new program, so I know
Yeah.
the schedule was weird last year,
Yes.
now it's still, I think,
Yeah.
different
we-
this year, so.
Yeah.
And then we just added, for the remainder of the day, we included the 30-minute duty-free lunch, because that was left out of the remainder of the day. And we figured they'd want to eat.
They do eat though, they do have.
Right, just to clarify. And then you'll notice on the second page, and I don't know if it needs to go in another spot or if that's a good spot for it, but we were just clarifying that Lincoln Park instructional employees are entitled to all the protections of the contract. That it's not just what's in the MOU,
Fine, I mean, okay,
and that's all we had for those. Now, I know, you don't have the mentoring MOU today, but we spoke about that today. And
all right, I'm still reviewing the data because my, when you and I discussed it, I started reviewing some names and I missed some, so I'm fixing that data pool to make sure that the MOU addresses the group correctly. So that's why I couldn't bring it today, because I'm still reviewing to make sure it matches.
Okay.
And then hopefully I can have that soon, before the next bargaining meeting.
Okay, so potentially next week.
Potentially,
after.
yeah, correct. I can potentially have that ready by then. And like I said, I was notified this morning on the new language, so,
Yeah, and I know we started hearing about it too, so
So-
wanted to make sure.
correct, so I'm working on it to make sure that I can get that one the sooner the better.
Anything else? for MOUs?
No, those are the only three pending, and the fourth one would be the mentor one, so those are the only ones pending.
Okay.
So I'll get back to you tomorrow on the first three that we have.
Okay.
And the mentor will be the one that I will have to get back to you.
Sounds good. All right, we have our Article 10, if you're ready for it. We're passing around, once everybody has it, then we'll look. Everybody got a copy?
Yes.
There are 2 corrections on page 1. I think everything else is correct. But I'll point out 2 corrections on page 1. It's at the bottom of page 1, so I'll mention it when we get to it.
Okay.
You'll notice a lot of the changes are just adjusting the word teacher to instructional employees, so you'll see that. All right, so I'll kind of introduce some of the language and then I have colleagues here at the table that are gonna help add to it. So starting with section 1, we have teacher crossed out there twice and instructional employee added, and then you'll see it again in the next paragraph. And then the last sentence there was added. It says instructional employees required to cover lunchroom and other supervision duties will select a time for duty-free lunch and breaks in collaboration for administration. So the intent of this language is to ensure compliance with duty-free lunch while allowing flexibility in scheduling and supporting educators and ensuring they get their lunch break and having a voice in their schedules. So it acknowledges that supervision duties are sometimes necessary, but they don't come at the cost of the duty-free lunch. So Christine, do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so, I feel like one of the groups that maybe ends up doing a lot of extra duties throughout the day are the non-load bearing people who bear a load. I know from my experience, there were many days at the elementary school where I would do all 3 lunch duties and maybe I'd get to eat before the end of the day. Because people didn't always make it there, and I'm not saying there weren't reasons, but I'm just saying that every adult on the campus needs a chance to recalibrate and put some food and nutrition in their body without being responsible for anyone but themselves, unless there's like some crazy crisis going on campus, in which case then we all pivot, right? But I think that there's an expectation sometimes that like you should just keep on going, you know, like the whole day before the day started, after the day ended. And that you can eat while you're answering emails or something. And I know so many people who do that too, and that's, I mean, it's still work, even though you're maybe not supervising little kids or big kids or whatever, you're still working while you're having your lunch, so that's not really a break either. And I feel like people need to be empowered to give themselves 30 minutes in the middle of the day, just not.
Got it.
Okay, section 2, you'll see again, instructional, so we crossed out teaching and add the word instructional in the heading. And then crossed out teacher and added instructional employee there 3 times in the first paragraph. We also crossed off at the very end of that first paragraph where it says with normal wear and tear, to just end the sentence with the instructional employee will not be financially responsible for any missing and or damaged textbooks or digital equipment. And we did have a question about that. Do you know, does that include laptops and Chromebooks for instructional employees?
I'm notating that question.
Okay. And I've heard that there is an IT form that instructional employees have to sign if they're gonna take their laptops or Chromebooks off campus. So we want to get clarification about that. Cause it seems like the form may contradict this language. You want the form number?
No, I can call it, either can give me the, I mean, if you have it, I'll write it down. If not, I can.
Well,
just-
our tech cons
No, no,
have
and,
the form number, so we can certainly share it with you.
I'll give it to you, Mix. I think the number that was written down is wrong. I
Oh,
think it's missing a number.
oh, you can send it to me on, no, it's
Okay,
fine.
I can do that.
Okay. I jotted down that question also.
Okay, because we do have concerns about that when educators are being asked to use their technology for example, the professional development day, they're having to take it off campus. Or if something were to happen and a student, knocks it out of their hand, whatever the case may be. So we want to get some clarification about that.
It's 75B 008.
The next paragraph there, we've again crossed off teacher and added instructional employee and then fixed the article there. We crossed believes he, again, to try to remove the pronouns. And then you'll see it again and then 2 more times in that section. Below that, we added new language here for the Florida Teacher Supply Classroom Assistant Program. So it says it will be dispersed in 2 groups. So group 1 is instructional employees returning to Lake County schools who qualify for the money will receive the funds the first day of pre-planning. And then group 2, new instructional employees and teachers who might have changed positions and qualify as of September 1st. This is where our first typo is. It should say will receive the funds by September 1st, not 15th. So cross off the 5 there. So it should read will receive the funds by September 1st. And this language is just codifying the process that we already have. We spoke to Kimberly Repas, I think that's.
Spoke to her.
The finance director, and confirmed the process and how they do it, and they were saying that any employees before September 1st, they put in immediately and they try to get them their funds before the first day on campus. And then employees after will get it as of September 1. I'm sorry,
That's a little,
Okay,
it's if they were employed last year and they're still in,
right, correct,
they get it before the first day of school.
correct,
Afterwards, it's everyone who's been employed by September 1st, they get it.
as of September,
On September. 1st.
yes,
Okay.
She said, she told us that they were all done by September 1st.
Yes.
So when she said they were all done, it was all the people that were new to us hired.
correct,
For starting this school year. But anybody that was reappointed, they get it before.
right.
So,
We just wanna make sure they get the funds as soon as possible to start preparing for this.
well, they're doing that already.
Yes, yeah, this is just codifying that process.
Okay.
And then we did add, because we were notified that any employee that's hired after September 1st, so if you have an employee starting September 2nd, they don't qualify for the state statute funds. And so we wanted to make sure that there was communication and a pathway for those employees to speak to their school administration about getting subsidized. And we know that a lot of our school leaders are really great about that. So that's what that last paragraph is, or last sentence. It says any instructional employee who are employed after, so that's my second typo. That 4 should be crossed off there. So it should say employees who are employed after. To cross off 4. September 1st, will speak with their administration to be provided support on class materials and reimbursement. All right, page 2. There's one more sentence there that's still part of that section 2. And it says instructional employees will have access to copy machines and printers. And this is just codifying that, no teachers need access to copy machines and printers. They rely on these materials. And it's part of, the work that they do for their students. So we just want to make sure we codify that here.
But they do have access to copy machines and printers.
Right, so we're just codifying that.
Okay.
They should have access.
Wanna be,
Ed, did you want to speak to anything there?
Yeah, about some of the equipment, especially when it comes to enrichments. Specifically the elementary enrichments. When you do what we do, it's a special type of class, and there are certain materials that are required for a standard elementary. In my case, music education. And a lot of times. We're expected to find ways to supply it when. I don't think it should be our responsibility to do that. And in my opinion, it should not even have to be the principal's responsibility. It should be the district. To provide certain materials like certain instruments and things like that. To kind of give you an example, my classroom, currently sitting in my classroom are $6,000 worth of instruments. That come from me. Not from county. Usually the solution is always, well, let's go find a grant. But it's very difficult. Some of our schools are more affluent neighborhoods where there are more opportunities for donations or things like that. Leesburg ain't one of them. And right now, so all that, I stood in front of the school board and told them, and I want you to think on this for a minute. My wife and I pawned our wedding rings in order so we can have materials for our class. Let you sit. Sorry. That's what we did. we're providing these materials for these kids. And it should be a district, not a principal responsibility. It says here, go to your principal. It should not be the burden on you to have to do that. That should be something from the district. The last time, to my memory, that the district ever gave anything for curriculum or got an instruments was 17 years ago. That's when I unboxed the instruments at Seminole Springs Elementary. Beyond that, no curriculum, no instruments, no nothing. So that is something I just need to put in front of you guys when considering this. For the secondaries, it's a little bit easier. They have boosters. The rules don't apply as much to boosters as they do to here. Elementary doesn't. We're at the mercy of what's available most of the time, and let's just be honest, there's not money available for it. But it shouldn't be on us to have to do it. Like I said, that's not my original rating.
Thank you, Ed. All right, section 3, work area. So we've changed teacher here multiple times to instructional employees. So you'll see that 4 times in that section. I think that's the only change there besides an article. Section 4, faculty area. So we crossed off within its ability and just said so it should read the board will make available in each work site. So cross off the word school, a lunch area, restroom facilities, and parking area exclusively for employee use, period. And then it reads, at least one area will be reserved for use as faculty work area with access to copier and printer. So again, just codifying that language. And a lot of our surrounding districts or districts we touch do also have that language about access to copiers and printers. And then we've added here, instructional employees will not pay for parking. We're hearing more and more, both instructional employees and non-instructional employees are being asked to pay for parking for special parking spots on campus. And we're being told that that money is being used for fundraising purposes for like sunshine committees or for staff employee meals or like teacher appreciation week. And we have some concerns about that. Teachers are paying as much as $100 for some of those parking spots. And teachers already spend quite a bit on their jobs and they should not have to pay for parking on grounds to do their job. It's essentially like taxing attendance for them to park on campus. And so we want to make sure that educators are not contributing and having to pay parking, and then that money is being used for their own teacher appreciation meals. So that's what instructional employees not paying for parking comes from.
So let me clarify something. Nobody's making them pay for the dollars. They're choosing to pay whatever fee or whatever thing is going on. So I just want to be clear on that. Now, I understand about the request. And I understand that some schools do it for different activities. I get that. But I want to be clear, nobody's making anybody pay anything.
I actually had a group of teachers approach me asking if we could do this, like I heard other schools are doing this, can we do it, and like, that might be. Like, I'm not even sure about that since the first I've heard, but like teachers are coming, like a group of 5 came to me and requested, like if we did
That's
it.
really interesting. I'd love to find out about that because we've got the opposite. Folks have
But
told us.
from my understanding, it was always optional, like there were certain spots that were available.
So I guess my question would be, so
And they got
were these-
decorated and like that's what they're like, we decorate the parking lot and we were excited about that, like. My teacher said like, can we at least vote on it? Cause I kind of just was like, that's not something we just have a newly painted parking lot, like I wasn't really interested in doing that, yeah, and.
were they asking to do it to be able to have their own customized spot, or were they asking to do it for fundraising purposes, or what?
They said, have you heard of this fundraiser idea, like another school that they knew some teachers at it, they were all excited about it, and then I kind of shut it down and like, can we at least vote on if we can like proceed with this fundraiser, and I just was like, okay.
Right, we don't do that at our school, where we have, the request has been made. Sometimes by the person who may have some time constraints in the morning, so that they can park up front, not walk quite as far. To get to them.
I have been first time teachers as well for,
I was buying a parking space and they would get I mean, what was suggested to me was, kind of a sign that goes in front of the thing with their name on it. And they can paint it, but I was kind of in the same boat you are, they just resurfaced my parking spaces. And I kind of didn't wanna paint over the new surface, but, I mean, they are the ones who came to me asking, and we wanted to, cause I have pencils, like they're plastic. You see, but they look like pencils that have been stabbed in the ground, and so their idea was to have a pencil thing like that with their name on it.
It's very interesting.
I will get more information regarding that, because I need to find out as to.
I'm in a sunshine committee that has people paying for parking spots as an option. And it is a large amount of money, so there are like new teachers and stuff who financially don't end up. I don't feel like, as someone who has been a new teacher 27 years ago. Maybe not liquid enough to pay for the better parking spot. We didn't get to decorate it. It's not personalized. It says it's reserved, but I still put a cone on mine because otherwise people just pull in there and park. And it's a fundraiser for Sunshine so that we do have the money for teacher appreciation stuff and all of the faculty stuff that goes on.
Well, I appreciate y'all sharing that perspective. I do believe in educator voice, and I do believe that they should have a say in their working conditions and what they're experiencing on their campus. I do have concerns though about a select group of people getting special parking because we're creating disparities among our own instructional staff and then also inequities across the district. One school is having these special parking spots and another school isn't. You know, that creates disparities among our instructional staff district wide. So that would be my main concern with that. And so I do appreciate y'all bringing those concerns and sharing that some employees did come to you about that, because it is something that we want to know what our employees.
Well, would that also include like rookie teacher of the year, those are, I know in our school, those are specialized spots there.
Are they paying for that?
No,
Okay.
but you're saying it causes a disparity, then somebody may not be able to have it, so it becomes maybe a.
Yeah, I think an award and a special 1-year opportunity because you are an excellent school, employee and a school leader, like that's a little bit different than saying. You want this special parking spot, you have to pay $100. Right?
We didn't change the language, but just like when Ed was talking about the issues with, electives and curriculum and supplies. When we're talking about work area and restrooms, there are some issues, besides, just so you're aware, of the distance that teachers have to walk in order to use a restroom or have access to a restroom. And that maybe just something that we can't really codify it here, but that is something that has been reported to us from different sites. That there's not a sufficient restrooms for staff.
All right. So section 5, telephones, electronic devices and classroom interruption. So you'll see here, I think we've only changed teacher to instructional employee about 4 or 5 times here in this section. And then we also added to the second paragraph. It should say the use of devices will be directly related to academic instruction or direct business. District business, and that was added because again, we know we have a lot of instructional employees that aren't just teaching in the classroom with students, they're doing other things. And often they're, using their electronic devices in between classes or at lunch duty or whatever the case may be to answer emails or address district business.
Okay.
Section 6, messages, again, same thing here, you'll see teacher crossed off 3 times there and instructional employee added. Page 3. Section 7, we crossed off teaching and the heading there and added instruction. We've also crossed off teacher and added instructional employee in the first sentence there. We crossed off the second sentence there. The thought process here is that this should be handled in the evaluation process. It doesn't really make sense here in this language. And then we cross out teacher again and then added instructional employees. You'll see that again.
So the cross out line is because you're It should be in the handle in the evaluation process.
Yes, yeah. Okay. And then the next paragraph, again, instructional employee is added and teacher crossed out 3 times there. And then the last sentence, instructional employee added, teacher crossed out. And the very last sentence, instead of principal, administration. So we're trying to, again, use that same terminology throughout the contract.
Okay.
Section 8. There is a correction. Okay. We added instructional employee and cross off teacher, and then it should read will be available, so make should also be crossed off there. So I apologize for 3 typos.
Okay.
Then you'll see instructional employee added again, teacher cross off. Towards the end, principal cross off, administration added, and then we added a sentence at the very end that says the purpose of the meeting will be communicated upon scheduling of the meeting. And the intent of this language is to make sure that educators are notified the purpose of the meeting prior. So it's, you know, removing any ambiguity. And teachers can become prepared for the meeting and expects educators' time and professionalism by giving them a chance to contribute to that. The next sentence, you'll see teacher crossed off again twice, and the article adjusted there, and instructional employee added, and then principal crossed off and administration added. Section 9, all we did was cross off teacher and added instructional employee. Section 10, teacher is crossed off 4 times there and instructional employee added. Page 4. Section 11, teacher crossed off and instructional employee added twice there. And then we added instructional employees with supplemental assignments will be notified in writing prior to post planning of the preceding year. See section 7 of article 16 differential pay position, so it's just referring to that section. And then instructional employees who are given an out of field assignment will be given justification for that placement. So this is to make sure that employees know if they're going to receive a supplemental position before they leave for the summer, that they can plan accordingly for those additional duties before the first day of pre-planning. And then out of field, we know that there are some rules about out of field that you can only work 1 year out of field. And so depending upon the situation, you know, they should be communicated why they're having to work out of field. And so that's where that language is coming from.
Can you give me an example of the supplemental assignment, just so?
For example, if you're gonna be the new volleyball coach, volleyball starts really, really early, like for high school level. So you're talking the first games, I think, are in August. So they might start need to do like training and conditioning and tryouts before school even starts. So that's a great example of someone that needs to be communicated with, as well as yearbook. So if you're already starting to take, you know, photography of these sports games that are happening prior to school starting.
And a lot of them have trainings in the summer too.
Okay.
Section 12. We crossed off teacher and added instructional employee. And then added non-student work and district professional learning days. So we crossed off teacher and added instructional employee. And then we've added the language below. So instructional employees will be provided with an opportunity to attend sessions at start and end times that mimic contract hours across the district for district professional learning days. And this again just comes about from planning and creating some clear, predictable calendars and scheduling so that educators can plan for their personal and professional obligations. A lot of that does apply to the sections below as well. So Pre-planning days is A, so the first 5 days of the contractual year prior to the beginning of the student calendar year. Used for district faculty, departmental meetings and service, and for instructional employee self-directed activities. B, work days, so 1 day immediately following the first 3 grading periods will be used by instructional employees for self-directed activities. Instructional staff shall have the choice to work remotely or at the work site for these work days, provided there are no scheduled meetings. And C, post plan, the day immediately following the last student calendar day will be used by instructional employees to close out the school year. Administration and staff will be available during the contract day for end of year checklist requirements. So this is just codifying language that we already have, or the process that we already have. The only exception to that is the choice of remote work. We know a lot of our school leaders are giving educators that choice already, where they can work from home, and we know other districts have codified that language as another benefit for working for their district. So that's where that language comes from.
Give me 1 second.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Section 13, observation. So this, we've crossed off teacher and added the article and instructional employee. We've also crossed off the building administrator and added administration. And then crossed off teacher, added instructional employee. And then instead of it saying 24 hours notification, we added at least 1 workday notice will be given. The intent of this language is just to ensure that notice is given during contract hours, as opposed to on a Sunday, when teachers aren't checking their email. Then the word teacher crossed off, instructional employee added, will be given is crossed off. And then at the very bottom, we've added new language here that says any media or recording by district, school, administrative personnel or visitors must have consent of the parties involved. So again, this is about clear communication and ensuring that teachers are aware of what's going on. That any photos or videos or anything that's happening in the classroom that they're aware of. And it's not, it doesn't feel like surveillance or some sort of documentation without some consent or notice. And when you have consent policies, it helps foster a culture of mutual respect. And so we wanted to make sure that that language was there. And Tamara, I wanted to see if you had something you wanted to add to that, section 13.
So in my opinion, from what I understand from the walkthrough process, it's a twofold purpose. Like the first one is to find trend data. And the second one would be to be able to support my tier 1 instruction as an educator in the classroom, because you're getting a chance to see what I'm doing. And I can get real, right on time, just on time feedback. So I wanted to share a recent experience that I had at my work site. I was sent an email and asked to be prepared for a district walk, like that we were gonna have a visitor from the district come to our campus and visit in our classrooms and do the traditional walks that everybody does. So that was supposed to happen at 1 o'clock. The day that it happened, the district person and my administrators walked in at 10:45. Now, I don't really care. I mean, I don't mind being observed anytime you walk through anytime, because even if it's a surprise to me, I can get feedback from that, from my administrator to share something with me that, hey, we noticed this, or we had a question, and I feel like that's good for me. So I don't mind the surprise element, but I was thinking, wow, this is so many hours early. What if I had wanted to do something different with my morning block and not with my second, and hadn't talked to my coach about it yet, or something like that? There would have been confusion and a lack of clarity. And I want my school to shine if someone from the district shows up. Well, the observation went fine. They did the normal things. They asked, what are you doing? What standard are you working on? What are you learning? How do you know you're learning it? All of that was done. My kids were in collaborative groups. I felt like what I could hear them saying, and I felt like, okay, you're doing a great job right now. And then at some point, the person from the district took a phone out. And looked at my walls and took a picture of something on my wall. Didn't ask me about it. Said, okay, well, maybe that's good. I mean, if they're taking a picture, maybe they like it, but if it's bad, I guess I'll find out about it later. So, when that person was leaving my room, I said, hey, thank you such and so for coming to my classroom today. Really appreciate your time. They were distracted because they were texting, but they looked up and said, oh, you're welcome, and left. Said, okay, maybe I'll hear something. Didn't hear anything. That happened like 2 weeks ago, and I still haven't heard anything. So for me as an educator, I'm gonna speak as an individual here. I need my feedback to be purposeful, and I need it to be, something critical that I can dig my teeth into and feel like someone came in that cares about what's happening in my classroom with my students, that really is invested in me doing better as a person. And I just wanted to throw just a brief shout out. The best feedback I think person I've ever had as a teacher in this district is Dr. Faith Harris. I went, after she's been in my room, I read through the comments that she says. I've gone to professional learning on my own. I've advanced my own career based on the feedback from my administrator. So the time you spend in my room is precious when you come in. I appreciate that deeply, but feedback, making it, impactful and timely is critical to my growth as an educator. I know that y'all are invested in all of us as teachers, but when we don't get feedback on those walks, it's really debilitating and disappointing, but especially if we have to come to y'all and ask for it, that's tough. We would love for you to be excited about what you're seeing, or even if you have a concern, to share it with us immediately so that we can get on the ball and start doing the things that you feel like would be best for the kids and for our professional growth.
Thank you for saying that. I'll make sure that convey that message.
Thank you very much.
Okay, page 5. At the top, we've added the word the district learning walk tool, so it's clear what we're talking about when we talk about the learning walk tool, and that's what Tamara was speaking to. Which we had some folks come into her classroom. We crossed off the word teacher and added instructional employee. And then at the bottom, crossed off individual teachers upon request and just rephrase that at the end. So you'll see and crossed out there, and then it says, and the individual instructional employee upon request. So these are folks that are really great with grammar, helped us with the language there, just cleaning it up. Section 14, school day, we just crossed off teacher and added instructional employees. Section 15, grade reporting, you'll see teacher cross off and then instructional employee added 3 times there. Section 16, final grades reporting. We've added the sentence at the end, or a couple sentences at the end. It says instructional employees will not be required to finalize and post grades before the end of the marking period grading window. Instructional employees who teach students being promoted or graduating may be required to submit grades early. Instructional employees should be notified of all grade reporting deadlines at the beginning of each semester. So the intent of this language and the purpose of this language is to make sure that educators are getting the full time to do appropriate feedback and grading, and they're not rushed to grade things inappropriately. And for our folks that are teaching the students that are promoting, that are going on to graduation, we recognize that they need some additional flexibility there to get those grades in before that promotion or graduation time. But other instructional employees shouldn't have to rush to do the appropriate grading that they need to do to make sure everything's accurately assessed and students get the feedback that they need. The instructional employee notification piece is also to help make sure that educators are planning appropriately in advance for their curriculum and timeline of the work that they're doing for their students. Section 17, carrying on page 6. I think the only change there is 1 teacher's crossed off and instructional employee added. Section 18. You'll see we've added the word worksite and cross off school. Added 2 after the LCA representative. And then the last sentence there, it should say the LCA president or designee. shall appoint a representative. Page 7, section 19. We've just replaced the word teacher with instructional employee twice there, and then cross off principal and added administration. The last sentence or paragraph there, we've added the article and crossed off teacher twice and added instructional employee. Section 20, there's a bunch of those. So you'll see teacher crossed off, instructional employee added. We've also gotten rid of the pronouns here, so you're gonna see a lot of hims and he's crossed off. Or by his.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of that. 6 of them there, so. Same in B, you'll see teacher crossed off, instructional employee added, and then the article there as well as his crossed off. Page 8. Same thing on page 8, you're gonna see a bunch of teachers crossed off, instructional employee added. The and article is added where necessary, so you'll see that a couple times.
Yeah.
Bobby did find a is that's missing on page 7.
Page 7. Where?
Point out where that is.
Yeah, it's about the middle of the paragraph, where instructional employees in bold, almost in the middle. It says, when in the judgment of the instructional employee, a student's behavior is seriously disrupting the instructional program, because when we got rid of the by-ins, we forgot to put back the is.
Got it, noted.
Okay, so back on page 8. Page 8 is the same thing, like I mentioned over and over again, teacher crossed off, instructional employee added. And then the articles. Page 9, at the top of page 9, same thing, teacher crossed off, instructional employee added, and the article there. I believe in one place is adjusted. Section 21, same thing, we have cross off teacher, added instructional employee, added the article and removed the pronoun himself. Section 22, we have added, so it was there like 2 or 3 years ago.
Right.
We crossed it off, instructionally left blank, we've added some language now back. And I will say with this section, if there's some expert advice or input on how to reword this or what needs to be here, we're open to that. We did speak with Title I and federal programs to come up with some of this language, and we also looked at Escambia County for some of this language, so that's where this is coming from. We have school advisory committees, SAC and or parent teacher organizations or associations, PTO, PTAs. Consent with the intent and provision of the Florida Educational Accountability Act, school advisory councils shall be composed of educators, parents, and other citizens who are representative of the ethnic, racial, and economic communities served by the school. Each council member shall be selected from a list of nominees. A democratic process will be employed to identify nominees. At any work site where no representative LCA is elected to be a member of the advisory council, an LCA member selected by the association members on the faculty shall serve as an ex officio member of the council to act as a resource person on contractual or other issues as they arise. And then the next sentence, instructional employees, or less paragraph, I should say, instructional employees will have the opportunity to participate in SAC or PTO, PTA meetings and will be notified of meeting times and locations 2 weeks prior to each meeting. All instructional employees will have the opportunity to provide feedback each year in the development of the school parent compact and will not be required to sign school parent compacts. All instructional employees will also have the opportunity to provide feedback each year in the development of the school improvement plan. So this language came about, we did some research into the school compacts, and we noticed that some school compacts were requiring teachers to sign them, some school compacts were not. And then we got to talking about it, and we're like, well, who all would sign them, especially at a high school or secondary level? So there was some conversations about that. We reached out to Title I and federal programs and found that there's no state law or federal law that states that teachers have to sign them.
That correction was made.
Right, correct. So we're codifying that. We also want to make it clear if this is something that's developed to help the school, that educators are giving input in that school compact. And that is not just a piece of paper that we're signing at the beginning of the year and no one looks at it again. So we want to make sure that it's something that's intentional. If the schools are developing these compacts, that educators are giving feedback and they have an opportunity to take part in that work. Page 10,
So, hold on, you spoke to federal programs, what other department you spoke to?
I guess Title I is federal,
Federal
program,
program.
right? Yeah,
No other department?
no,
I'll get you more information on that.
Okay.
I don't know if it's worth noting that I think compacts are just at Title I schools, so that one.
Correct.
Schools, so that. Okay.
Correct. So you mentioned school advisory committees, and that's it, I believe that's everybody, so.
But from our understanding, the school advisory committee is supposed to have part in making the school compact. That's why we put it in that section.
it seems like a lot of schools, that's where it's happening.
I think that's
SAC.
part of the
Yeah.
federal, like that is a compliance piece for Title I, is
Right.
that like the year prior they have, but it's just only Title I schools with that.
Right.
So I was just asking.
Are we good? Next section.
Good.
Section 23, student teacher interns. We add the word intern because we recognize that they're not just called student teachers anymore. We've crossed off the word teacher, added instructional employee, and added intern. We've crossed off teacher again there and added instructional employee twice there, 3 times there. And then it says at the end, which trainings will operate as well as program compensation. Section 24, all we've done is remove teacher and added instructional employee.
Okay,
Section,
hold on, I got a question, what do you mean by as well as program compensation?
so if a program is compensating the interns, that's communicated.
Yeah.
Section 25. Opportunity to make recommendations, we crossed off teacher there twice and added instructional employee. Section 26, cross off teacher, added instructional employee. Section 27, same thing, teacher crossed off, instructional employee added, and then cross off, they will do so. And added such procedures shall be carried out. So again, so just cleaning up the grammar and language there. 28, we crossed off the pronoun he and added the administrator. The A on administrator should be lowercase. Oh. So we've got some capitalization things, I guess we gotta.
Yeah, that word is throughout the contract, depending when it was amended,
Okay,
some places it's capitalized, some it's not, so.
so we'll look at that when we do editing. 29 is another area that was intentionally left blank, and we've added language here specific for ESE, so you'll see exceptional student education program. We've added a couple sections under section 29, so A says planning days for ESE instructional employees. Carries on page 11. It says ESE instructional employees who either teach in a self-contained classroom or are responsible for writing a minimum of 15 IEPs per academic calendar year shall be granted 1 planning day each 9 weeks to complete required paperwork, complete testing and or prepare for IEP meetings. Instructional employees will be provided with a substitute for the day. Instructional employees shall collaborate with their administrators to select an appropriate date for planning. Our understanding is that some work sites are doing this, where they provide a sub for the teachers to collaborate and plan and do what they need to do. We know sometimes that ESE teachers are included in that. So that's where this language comes from, and I will punt it off to my ESE folks to elaborate once I'm done going through the language as well.
No, I agree with you, I know, but some do that.
The ESE district committee, so there shall be a district advisory ESE work group committee made up of 6 instructional employees appointed by the LCEA president and 6 administrators appointed by the superintendent that meets at least quarterly during the school year. This committee shall review the process for IEPs and other ESC SOPs, requirements of state and federal law, caseloads and other ESC workload topics. Recommendations of the committee shall be forwarded to the superintendent and the LCA president within 30 days of the completion of the work. And then C, paperwork requirements and submission. To ensure consistency across the county, paperwork requirements for ESC instructional staff shall be minimized and standardized. A comprehensive list of all required ESC documentation shall be published annually by the district with any mid-year additions or changes provided in writing to instructional employees at least 30 calendar days in advance. A shared digital documentation system shall be developed by the district to centralize paperwork, reduce manual duplication, and improve access across service providers and administrators. The distribution and collection of instructional employee reports and documentation of receipts shall follow uniform procedures established by the district. To ensure efficiency and accountability in paperwork management, as well as to prioritize instructional staff time for meeting student needs, ESC instructional employees are only responsible for the initial request for paperwork from colleagues. Lake County Schools will provide a uniform process for next steps. ESC instructional employees will not be responsible for clerical tasks, thereby allowing instructional employees to focus on their instructional responsibility. I think that's it for that. So, I don't know who wants to speak first to that, but I have a couple folks, or three at least, that, would like to speak to the ESC.
I think it's pretty clear, and everybody that's confusing, but.
I understand what the language is. I had a question towards the end when it says, I would like you to define clerical tasks.
Okay, so a lot of that is that things are very different at different schools and getting different feedback. Things like the document receipts,
The what?
the documentation of receipt, the IEP.
Okay,
There is a process at some schools and not at others. Recently, at our school, for example, the 504 process is very simple. I can send one email to the entire school and a specific process for a form on focus. And we are sending a process that takes about 15 minutes for one student. We've timed it. That's way too much on the SC teacher, and that's not being done consistently across the county. So if you have a caseload of some 15 to 30 students, that's a lot of time to send out that you received the IEP. When in focus, there is a pink folder that says student has this plan. Same as a 504 plan, student has this plan. But you do absolutely want to make sure that all 7 teachers are aware of the plan and have read it, so you would need a documentation. But there's a much simpler and consistent way to do that, and it really should not vary from school to school. So if I move from one school to another school, we want that consistency and to make sure that our students are receiving what they need to receive. And most importantly, that we document that who is the case manager who sent out that report. And frequently, we're gonna have meetings more than once a year. So we want to have a consistent, clear, concise plan so that you can move student from school to school, teacher from school to school, and have the same plan. And it's consistent. So very simple would be that goes out. What is clerical? That would be, for example, if we can send out that email that you are going to, document that you received this, that's one time. And that's done. And one time when the new plan comes up, most students will have a plan once a year. But there may be students that you need to meet many times. Rather than going in and redoing that paperwork, if you get a clear, concise, this is the way we do this across the county. And that's why we wanted this language that says, as much as possible, can we have this clear and concise and consistent so that no matter what goal you're in to this. And then, of course, this is very time consuming. The most important thing is that the time is on instruction whenever possible, but some case management is more difficult than other case management. So if we have that clear and consistent, so it's not my opinion of what you're gonna do, or, you do this at this school, we do that at that school, as much as humanly possible, consistent. And that's why we say if that committee meets, then whether I'm at this school or that school or wherever, we have a clear, consistent policy. Naturally, some things have to change because some roles have to change, some programs have to change, but as much as possible that way. And then clerical things like sending out paperwork or signing for this or sending out that this is, you don't need to be a case manager to do that. To write the IEP, yes, to collect the forms, to have them and do them, obviously would be the teachers. Does that all make sense?
No, I understand. I just wanted a little bit more.
Right. sort of
Discussion on
that
that.
pieces.
David, do you want to speak to any of the pieces?
I mean, I think it was pretty clear, you know, one of the things that I've experienced in various locations where I've worked at different levels is the inconsistency. And the unknown expectations, you know, this year I happened to change from one school to another school. And I had to relearn how to do it compared to literally 4 months ago. So not that it was a problem, because I found it to be very efficient, the way it's operated. But there was no consistency, so it's one of those questions that I had to ask as a new staff member. Is how do you do it at this school? And that's kind of what we're trying to avoid. Having the committee to establish those standard operating procedures and then having them across the board. So that there's a seamless exchange between staff and also students.
And equity.
And there's equity, right? So there's not overwork, there's working smarter, not working harder or longer. Because, you know, one of the things that was brought up in our conversation when we came up with this language is just writing an IEP for somebody like me, who's been at this for 30 years, takes at least 5 hours. So then if you add the clerical responsibilities, that can become overwork or cause us to burn out. So that was the rationale.
And there's also those pieces where, depending on the role that you're in, if you are teaching 6 classes, which some of us are, and writing 28 IEPs, that's different, and each role is different.
Correct.
Your support facilitation role, you're teaching your class role, cutting classes at the schools, that then puts your teachers into those roles of gen ed classes. When they see a strong teacher and then your numbers go up.
And
So
that's,
there's a lot of pieces, a lot of moving pieces that are happening, and some are this year and some are consistent. I too have been here for a very long time. There was a time when you taught 3 classes and 90 minutes of plan. Now we're down to 45 minutes of plan and 6 classes, and the caseloads go higher and higher and higher. So this is where this language and the idea comes together, that you want to make sure, as all the roles are changing, that we are looking at the fact that you cannot do for, you know, the month of October, 10 IUPs and make sure that your students are getting, so that's what we want, is consistent. Okay, so writing 10 IEPs, teaching 6 classes, all different preps. You want to make sure your students are receiving everything they need to receive, and also on time. To not have to also ask the teachers to send back the teacher reports, because they are receiving tons of those too. So it's an unusual time, and at the end, we want to make sure our students are getting the best they can from us. But we also have to have that duty-free time to give them the best feedback.
Section 30 on page 12 and 31, there's no change there. Section 32, dress code, we've crossed off the word teacher twice there and added instructional employees. We actually technically 3 times, it's at the bottom there as well. We've added a sentence that says instructional employees will be permitted to wear association t-shirts. Administration may not require instructional employees to wear specific clothing or to pay money to qualify for casual attire days. So we know there's a past practice of some school leaders that will say you can wear blue jeans on a certain day if you pay into the Sunshine Fund or whatever the case may be, and that's where that language comes from there. Bobby, you want to speak to that a little bit?
Well, asking for donations, you know, we all want to support, we want to be part of a team and we want to support things. But it kind of sort of publicizes whether or not people can afford to do something or choose to do something and how much they spend. And usually, like my donations, what I make to different charities and things, that's private to me. And again, we've had times when teachers are told exactly what it is that they should wear, like, oh, let's all wear a school t-shirt today. And so you know, people want to be part of a team, but sometimes they just can't wear a school t-shirt that day. Or in order to wear jeans, they have to wear the school t-shirt. They can't wear jeans unless they wear a school t-shirt. If the teacher is dressing appropriately for our school, then there shouldn't be any coercion or shaming or feeling like, some people even feel like their job is at risk if they don't participate.
Section 33, workplace safety. So we've added language in B, we've crossed off 2 and added 4 representatives to each school committee. And crossed off and there and added the association shall appoint no more than 2 representatives to each departmental safety committee. And then on page 13, we've added the Florida statute to the bottom of that paragraph there, and then added a D. That indent there is a little weird, but it should be with the rest of the
Yeah, it should be.
bullets. It says, it is further agreed that a district-wide committee shall be formed and scheduled to meet quarterly to assist the site-based committees. The union shall appoint 6 bargaining unit employees and management shall appoint 6 employees who are not from the bargaining unit. This joint committee shall operate under jointly developed guidelines. And Jessica, you want to speak to that a little bit?
So we basically are codifying, so we match SEIU with this. This is language they already have. So we're just trying to make sure that we're on the same page.
Okay, and I think that concludes all of Article 10. And then we did bring forward a compensation proposal.
Okay.
So I know that's not on the agenda, but. We'll wait for that to come around and then Patrick, our compensation spreadsheet expert, speak to this.
All right, Patrick, then let me check your Excel sheet.
I did see something, but it's a good something that is more expensive than what it actually might be. So we're proposing, this is the page of contracts, that's the strike throughs from 24, 25, 26. We also strike through language after performance pay is determined, teachers below that works in a portion, because I don't think anyone can be below the 49.5 at this point, so I don't think that language is needed anymore. So we're proposing, last year, those were the amounts, so they're crossed out. For performance highly effective, $1,200, for performance effective, $900, grandfather highly effective, $960, and grandfather effective, $900. We are aware and recognize the district budgetary issues, we understand the budget cuts. But we also see that we are an A district and feel that teachers need to be recognized for the work they put into become an A district. And that some kind of compensation needs to be provided to them, with the increase in inflation and whatnot. That something needs to be done to increase paychecks, for our instructional employees. So the way, in terms of budgeting, it looks like to general fund, the total cost of this proposal would be 2.5 million. So I took the data information from the September 2nd, copy and pasted it into Mr. Zamora's file from last year, that he used to calculate the general fund increase. And then put in the top amount of 1,200, and then the spreadsheet, popped out with 2.5 million as the impact. So for some reason, it looked like those that didn't have a IPS score, it still gave them highly effective and the raise. So this actually 2.5 would be an overestimate, because it gave people that, it was giving more than it should for certain things, within that spreadsheet, and I didn't get a chance to fix that part of the formula.
And I'll check it and I'll promise I won't change it.
And,
And thank you for this, and please know that I'll take this to discuss it with the board, and then we'll get back to you. Right, okay?
The rationale too, which I think Patrick kind of spoke to, is that we wanted to mimic what we've done in the past based off the amount of money that the state has given us prepared, and really just so everyone's aware, obviously every year the state gives us a different amount. So one year we might have a really great salary increase through performance pay, and the next year it might not be so great because it's dependent upon what the state provides and then what general funds the district can provide on top of that. And we know, like Patrick mentioned, we're looking at some challenging times budget wise. But this is including the TSIA funds and then additional funds from the general.
And additionally, even though it's not here, but one of the things that we need to consider, is the cost of turnover. We would like the educators that have helped us reach, A in our district to stay here. Because every educator that leaves is going to cost us money in turnover. So while we didn't subtract that because we can't predict that, we do know that districts surrounding us are providing more compensation than we are at this point.
All we have for that. Want to talk next states?
And what we had discussed earlier, you gave me a date, correct?
September 30th,
Can we tentatively pencil that in?
right? September 30th. Y'all want to check your schedules, September 30th. It's a Tuesday at 4:30.
LCEA.
It would be on our, yes.
I just gotta make sure, the reason that I'm saying tentatively for now, just give me until at least the next few days to confirm, because I need to make sure that I have enough time to schedule a meeting and with my board to discuss this proposal.
You said 4:30.
Yes, 4:30.
And I'll see you then.
Yes. Are you good with that? Okay. Okay. Anything else?
No, I do not have anything else. Do you have anything else?
That's all.
Um,
Well, thank you.
Thank you. It is 5:25. This concludes bargaining for 9/10 between Lake County Schools and LCEA. Thank you, everybody.
And if you're an LCA member, feel free to stick around. We're gonna talk it.